Morning, everyone. I hope you've all had a great start to the day so far. Um, Welcome to our webinar, Unlocking the Potential of M365 with Copilot. Since the announcement, we've had over 200 inquiries, and today Ultima will be discussing how as a business we've leveraged this AI tool and feedback to you on our experiences, but also provide you with a brief licensing update as well. I'm joined today on the call this morning by Will Barlow and Ian Gerard. Will leads up our solution sales team, and Ian leads up our Microsoft licensing practice. Brief agenda for the day. In light of the recent changes, very unlike Microsoft, Ian will be providing us with a licensing Microsoft update. Then we'll have a brief overview of what Copilot is, and then kind of touch base on Ultima's deployment or Ultima's case study, should we say, and actually what we've experienced as a business. What was our real world challenges? What's our success stories? What lessons have we learned? And again, we can go into the use cases of M365 Copilot. Ian, over to you with an update on licensing and Microsoft.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Thanks, Vulcan. Thanks everybody for joining today as well. So what I'm going to do is just kind of run through a little bit about where we are and what some of the enhancements are and what it means for yourselves. I think you will get a copy of all of these slides, and I think the webinar is being recorded, so you don't need to worry about that. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them. We'll be kind of covering them off towards the end as well. So of course you can contact myself directly or any one of your licensing specialists or your account manager as well. But what I wanted to do was just kind of take stock of where we are in regards to the licensing. It'd be a good way to frame that before we go into the meat of the session, really. Because previously, you would have had to, organizations would have had a Microsoft Enterprise agreement and bought at least 300 users of Microsoft 365 Copilot. So effectively, many organizations are kind of looking down the barrel of up to £80,000–90,000 investment. Now, the news from Microsoft, which was absolutely anticipated and expected, although I think the velocity of that increase has certainly meant that we've had a very busy couple of days, but it also shows how strong the customer reaction has been to Copilot in the first instance, and the fact that they've actually removed that 300-seat minimum, and that is across all commercial plans and all commercial agreements. Rather than having to have a Microsoft Enterprise agreement, 500 plus users, it is now available on CSP. So organizations, whether you're small, whether you're medium, or whether you're large, do now have the ability to buy Microsoft 365 Copilot. One thing I will say, there is still a minimum term. So even if you've got a CSP agreement, you will have to buy that for the full term. I mean, actually, in actual fact, if you've got, it will co-term. So if you've got an existing agreement and that comes up to renewal in next month or the month after, for example, then actually you're only committing to that period up until your renewal. I mean, there's probably no doubt that with all of the vast majority, with 90% plus of customers having their CSP renewal due in February and March, due to the changes and the price increases previously from 2023, I think this is why Microsoft have accelerated it as well, because they want customers to start buying a couple of licenses. They expect everyone to effectively include this as part of their renewal process. There's been a change in the qualifying licenses as well. You no longer need to have kind of the full Microsoft 365 E5 or E3 license. They've kind of widened this, and it does now include Office 365, E3 and E5. So that's fantastic, just making it a lot more easier for customers to adopt it. And even if you're a really smaller organization, kind of under 300 users, where you're allowed to buy business standard and business premium, it is also available for you as well. So we are truly seeing a complete relaxation and a real further invigoration within the Copilot market, which, with all the registrations and all the inquiries we've had just over the last few days, is a fantastic place to be. And look, education customers with Microsoft A3 and A5 is also available to them as well. But yeah, fantastic news and very exciting news. So please contact me, your licensing specialist, or your account manager if you truly want to understand what the costs are for you, what this means for you, what's the best way to get the licenses. But moving on, how do you get the most out of them? How do we help you with adoption? And that's where I'll hand back to Vulcan and the team.
Thank you, Ian. I mean, before we move on to our story, just to kind of, for anybody who doesn't know what Copilot is, it's been, we've all done it. I'm not going to stay too long on these slides, but M365 Copilot combines large language models, your data within the Microsoft Graph, and again, your M365 apps to potentially create a very powerful productivity tool. When we look at the logical architecture of how a user interacts with Copilot, I wanted to include this slide because it's a common one that comes up, and I thought it would be paramount to actually show this, where how a user will interact with the data within your organization. So just to note, as you can see, the user will only have access to the data that is queried, that they already have organizational access to. So if the permissions are not there, the user won't be able to see any of that data. Again, kind of moving on to the next slide, we quite often get asked a question about data security. Your data stays within your M365 service boundary. All your prompts, your responses, the data is not used to train the foundation LLM of Copilot. Your data is secured based on your existing security and compliance that you have today. All your privacy policies that you've deployed by your organization will remain the same. This is our journey so far from an Ultimate perspective. We started our Copilot journey, and the first thing we had to do was actually look at our technical readiness. We've always been on the cutting edge of technology, being a technology first organization. We've been doing infrastructure solutions for 30+ years. We were quite comfortable with this. We'd already embarked on our digital transformation journey. We already made sure that, we had a cloud first approach where our data was in OneDrive for Business and SharePoint. We've moved away from your traditional on-premise file shares. We deploy a zero trust methodology. Our data is secure. We're very comfortable with our permissions and our data classification. So actually, when turning on the features or turning on the licenses, that was the easy part for us from an Ultimate perspective. Yes, we did do some testing. That was great. Once that testing was done, we could very easily look at how we adopted the technology. Now, when we talk adoption, we had to approach this in two different ways. We had our kind of early access, the users that access the licenses early, but also our kind of self-tech lead or self-learning users. We went down the rapid adoption methods here. This was directly looking at the end users and actually working with the aha moments to actually say, okay, this is where this is how we can adopt this technology. But also, as we roll this out to the wider teams during our pilot, what we've also seen that there's a need to actually bring in our customer success teams or adoption teams to actually build out a more defined adoption strategy. And again, as we move on to the next slide, kind of talk a bit more about that. One of the things that we've seen when we talk about any user who's actually looking at interacting with a new technology, we have to really understand how that user uses that technology and how it works and how they behave. And what we've actually seen is that a typical user, including myself in this one, where I was actually really excited when Copilot was announced. I've been using Gen AI for as part of my role for some time, but I kind of volunteered to be on the trial engagement. I really wanted to be one of the early adopters, have a license, and I think it was great. But I think the key part for me was, even though my initial enthusiasm was there, that was really high for me. The perception of actually what Copilot could do for me versus the reality was two different things. I thought that out of the box, I'm going to be able to get Copilot to do a lot of fancy stuff for me, help me with sales enablement, help me create PowerPoint presentations, help me write blogs and articles, so on and so forth. And the reality is it does do all of that, but you need to have the foundation. You need to understand how to work with it. And actually, I didn't, as a user, have the underlying capability. I didn't have the underlying training to actually go out there straight away and utilize the technology. And then when my day job got in the way, it was quite, how can I say, it was quite frustrating for me not to be able to use the technology, get it to do what I wanted to do. So we've actually taken all of this on board and actually looked at how we can develop this for the later use cases of the users during the pilot. And the way we do this is actually, if we define the requirements and actually ensure that we've got the right enthusiasm within the business. We won't just have enthusiastic people, but we'll have people willing to stick to the program. Again, mentally preparing the users. How do we look at setting the expectations? How do we show them how the technology can be utilized for specific use cases? Again, what do we do to enable them skill sets? Do we actually provide them with training before they join the program? Do we provide them with regular check-ins and ensure the technology stays at the forefront? And again, building out a community of champions and actually taking that feedback from each session and actually working as a business, as a project team to actually deliver the best possible kind of adoption strategy for the team. And that's the approach that we've taken. We've had access to our licenses now for just before Christmas, and I think we've put together a project team and it kind of had a 5-month plan. Again, this doesn't always have to be the case for every organization, because every organization is going to have different needs, different use cases, different personas, but this actually worked well for us. So we've completed our first month, and what we did in that first month was we actually held stakeholder workshops. We had representatives from different departments. I think the good thing for us was that we had buy-in from senior leadership, and they were present during all the meetings. We collectively worked on creating a specification, i.e., who the people are, what roles can we help, and actually defining the personalities we needed to come on board on the program. Again, we worked as a collective group to create use cases and personas, and actually how do we get the best out of that for each department. We have representatives from each department on it. The most challenging part of this was deciding who gets a license, because everybody wanted a license. I think that was probably the most challenging part. But once this was completed, we set off on our internal communication, we built in regular check-ins, and again, we've kicked off our kind of execution, should we say, our pilot stage. As we've entered month 2, we've set up all our training, or the users that will pilot in the solution. We've set our training sessions up, onboarded the users, we've created the champions community. So again, regular sessions have all been booked in, and again, there's a continuous loop of feedback. And again, hopefully we hope to see what the results will be in the coming weeks and months. Summary of our experience so far, it's been a very useful tool. It has. There has been some, some of the solution has been in preview, so it has been buggy. But we know that's only going to get better over time as we train the LLMs, as we feed more information back into it. The solution is going to get better over time. One of the biggest benefits we saw was actually summarizing Teams meetings. Quite often, our project managers will chair various different meetings with different screens and have different documents open, whether that's a statement of works, whether that's a project plan, and actually taking notes of that as well as sharing screens. It is a very, very challenging task for them. And actually to be able to use an assistant to transcribe that meeting, actually summarize it and take notes, and even to the actions, has been absolutely amazing for us. We think that's a very, very great benefit to it. One of the other areas we've seen is that actually there is a need to have branded templates. Again, if you are doing any PowerPoint presentation or Word documents, in order to capitalize really on the full capabilities, having the templates branded to your company is a must. That's a lesson we've learned. Training, as I mentioned before, it's a very, very, it's key to adopting the technology. Again, the general awareness of what Outlook or what Office or PowerPoint can do is great, and I can challenge anyone. Do all of us know what the advanced Office features are today? I certainly don't know. And again, it's understanding the technology, understanding the platform will help you utilize or use Copilot in a far greater way. Again, it's been great for us to actually scan through previous proposals, understand what we've done, and actually get to information a lot quicker. This is at a very high level. I'm not going to read every single one off the screen for you, but it has been a great journey so far. And again, as time goes along, we will be adding more use cases. I'm going to hand over to Will here now, where we could talk about some of the wider benefits of Copilot.
Hi everyone. I've been using Office and sort of Microsoft products all my working life, and I think one of the key things I wanted to talk about today was that Copilot's kind of given me a different perspective on how I might need to work, and actually some of the things that are going to make the biggest difference. I wanted to talk through a few of the wider things here that you might not consider Copilot can help you with. The first one actually is inbox anxiety. So I'm sure we've all been on meetings where we're on a meeting and your Teams is blowing up, or you're getting loads of emails in, you've got loads of different communications now through multiple channels being fired at you. And actually for many people that can be a real trigger for kind of anxiety and a lot of things that are going on there. So the fact that I can quickly ask Copilot, hey, summarize everything that I've got over in the last hour or last 30 minutes and give me a quick summary of key actions I need to take is a really powerful thing. And I certainly appreciate that I've got a tool there that I can quickly keep check on all these different messages and give me a quick summary. The next area I think is stress, really, and it kind of goes back to the first point, but keeping me on top of it all, giving me skills, giving me knowledge, giving me time, giving me exercises to practice mindfulness. All these things are available in Copilot. And again, I wouldn't naturally kind of go to a Microsoft tool to do some of these things typically. But when I'm thinking about Copilot, it's kind of challenging me to look at different ways I can use it. And some of these areas are things that are really interesting for me to quickly ask a virtual assistant, if you will, to help me with these areas and kind of help me expand what I'm getting out of the Microsoft toolset and how I'm using it, which is a really interesting thing when you think about workplace health and sort of employee satisfaction. And it kind of goes into the next one here about personal development. I actually write an email to everyone in the team every week about the great things that have happened during the week that we've all done. And I can ask Copilot to help me reflect on the week and what's gone on, right? Because so much information bombarded to us, sometimes having a chance to sit back and reflect on a week or a day or what's gone well can sometimes pass us by, but yeah, it's a really important thing for many of us to do for our own mental health and well-being. So actually I can ask Copilot, I go in 365 chat and it will come back to me and say, hey, this is a quick summary of the week. And I can sometimes, I ask it, what are the really positive things that have happened during the week, or how have I done in my emails, or what are the good things I've done as a leader this week? And actually, it will go and analyze all my emails. It will look at the positive things, the sentiment out of it, and it'll say, hey, you've done these 3 things really well this week, and these are the 3 things that we recommend you have a look at developing. I can query it and ask it, how's my work-life balance been? I may be feeling it's been particularly good or bad, but it can help me understand some of these areas. But again, it's questions that you wouldn't naturally ask. All of us as users will use the Microsoft tooling that we've got in probably the same ways we've always used it. But it's interesting to think that I can now use this piece of technology in this way, and I found that personally useful. Focus is a really good one. It kind of comes back to that inbox anxiety point I made a minute ago, but the fact that I can store meeting information and quickly query it and refresh myself on it, what did we talk about last Tuesday in that meeting? And it can go in and it can take out the key points of it, really helps. And I don't need to worry necessarily about, writing lots of notes and doing all those sorts of things during calls, because I know that the transcript there is easily digestible, searchable, and I can do different things with those meeting actions. So that's really, really helped me focus a bit more on the calls and actually spend time doing what I should be doing, which is directly interacting with people, right? Rather than typing notes out into a system, I can just talk to people knowing that the other kind of mundane tasks are taking care of me, and that's helped me focus. Education here, my go-to has been Google or going on the web and searching for different things I don't know about. I'll read, I'll Google, I'll query things, and to be honest, it was a habit. I've been doing that for so many years now that if I don't know something, I'll go into a search engine and try and read up about it. But what I found with Copilot is I can do that far quicker using Copilot, and I had to get into a habit of of kind of asking it certain questions and it giving me back that information. I realized it could do it much quicker than me going through several web pages. So again, here it's a habit I've had to work on, but going to Copilot and asking it a good question for something I don't know about, but asking it in a way that I can understand rather than having to trawl through pages of text that might be online, has been a really good thing for me to understand different concepts and different technology and different things that I just don't know about. The next one here is communication. Now, the great thing about communication is often when we write an email or we do a PowerPoint or we write a proposal or a document, we're writing it on the assumption that a reader is going to understand what it is that we're writing, okay? And that's fantastic, but Copilot gives you the ability to kind of reshape that information in the way you might want to read it. So for example, I might get an email or a document and it's got pages and pages of text in it. Now, for me, a busy man, and I don't always get the chance to maybe understand every bit of detail in there that I want to, because I'm not a natural person that's perhaps good at reading multiple pages of text like that. What I can do though, thanks to Copilot, is I can reshape that information in a way that I want to see it as the viewer. So I can say, give me a summary. Or I can even say, make this into a PowerPoint so I can work through things. Or what are the top 3 things I should take away from here? Or what are the critical dates in this document? For me, that's enabled me to better understand the key, the messaging that's in important documentation or in different things that are surfaced to me that that really helps me really listen to people better and understand what it is they wanted to communicate with me. And I think, you know, it is back to that communication bit, but I think there's actually a powerful tool, Copilot, for inclusivity. People don't naturally you know, write text. We've all misread texts or messages in the past, I'm sure, or, you know, we've had a bit of communication where something hasn't quite come across in the way that someone wanted it prepared. And Copilot can actually coach you on writing more inclusive communication. So I sometimes get an email and I might be in, you know, really passionate about something and I want to make sure it comes across in the right way. So I can get Copilot Coach to help me write that or reshape it and come up with suggestions to make my emails clearer, to make my communication sharper, and therefore it will have a bigger impact in the people that I want to read it. You can also you know, ask Copilot as well, I found, to shape emails or communications that might help cognitive diversity. So, you know, I can ask it to shape a message that would be better suited for someone with ADHD or autism. I can ask Copilot to take into account or make some suggestions on how I can make my communication more inclusive. And I think that's a really powerful tool. And I imagine, you know, eventually what we'll see in Copilot is that communication might become a bit more personable. So if it knows that a particular person likes to read messages in a certain way, it might eventually come up with ways that you can shape communication that's going to be better suited to individuals. I think that could be a really powerful thing for its eventual development. And finally here, this is just quite a simple one, and I'm sure many of you on the call already know about some of this, but some of the basic things that I've had to get into a habit of doing, like prepare me for this meeting I've got this afternoon. And Copilot will look at, you know, if it's a scheduled meeting, it'll look at what happened in the last meeting, and it will come out with some notes of what I should remember or some of the key actions that were due. It can help me write an agenda so that I can organize future meetings a bit more easily. You know, if someone perhaps isn't great at structuring certain actions, it can really help them with that. And it can also write plans for you. So you can say, hey, what are the things, what would be a good plan to come out of this meeting on the next action and things like that. And it eventually we'll see, I imagine, tighter integration with kind of diaries and calendars, which will just kind of really enhance how we can think about time and organize our working lives around our employees and the meetings that we have. So this was something Microsoft originally published, this goals, context, source, and expectations kind of way of structuring prompts into Copilot, and I've kind of looked at that and thought, oh, it's GCSEs, right? So I kind of had to get into a habit of remembering my GCSEs when I talk to Copilot, and it's very simple. Whenever I write something to Copilot, I'm thinking of the goal. What response do I want? So in this case, it's generate a short summary. the context. So why do you need it and who is involved? In this case, it's for a meeting with X person to discuss this proposal. And the source, again, here I might reference a document, or I might reference a previous meeting and type that into the prompt. And then finally, the expectation would be, what I would like Copilot to respond with. In this case, it would be, please use simple language so I can get up to speed fast. And I realized, when I remember my GCSEs, it really helps me think about what I need to ask Copilot. And like with all things in life, you ask the best questions, you get much better answers. So for me, this has been a useful way of remembering what it is I need to type into Copilot to get a good response back out of it. Thanks, Vulcan. Back to you.
Thank you. Perfect. So for anybody on the call today, Ultima do have a complimentary free readiness assessment. What we'll be doing during that assessment, please reach out to your account managers or the marketing team, myself, your licensing team. During the free assessment, we will work with you to understand your adoption strategy, what adoption strategies you have in place today, and how we can help you leverage some of the other techniques that are out there, but also understand you as an organization, what your baseline is, what kind of productivity collaboration tools you have in place today. We can look at you from an infrastructure perspective, understand how much of the M365 stack you've got and how you actually get to a place where you could be comfortable to utilize Copilot. And then again, we can look at information lifecycle management, look at the quality of your data, understand how secure you are. And again, what we do, you get back a very comprehensive report with Ultima recommendations, Microsoft best practice guidance. And again, this is a complimentary complimentary readiness assessment available to any of you on the call today. Other services that Ultima have to offer other than the readiness assessment, we also have a security advisory service where if you know your data is not in order, we can work with you, perform a gap analysis, just understand how your information is protected today, and provide you back a report of what you can do for next steps. Again, a lot of you know us to be an infrastructure organization. We've done various migrations. So if you are looking to move your data into SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, and move it from on-premise email to Exchange Online, we can work with you to map that out and actually show you what that looks like from an investment perspective. Again, we can work with you to look at the health of your M365 estates. Mentioned on the adoptions services, we think that the key to a successful Copilot project is going to be the adoption piece. So we can work with you to provide you find out from a gap analysis where you are today from an adoption perspective, and help build out a future roadmap of how we can get you to adopt and actually manage that change within your organization. Again, for organizations that qualify, if you're at your early stages of your Copilot journey, Microsoft have the Art of the Possible MCI workshops available. Please reach out to us and your account managers. We can work closely with Microsoft to see if that funding is available and whether you qualify. If you do, it's over a couple of days. We kind of look at how Copilot works, look at what you need to do from an ops skills perspective, and actually help you build out personas and use cases. Want to kind of open the floor to any questions?
So we have had one question in, Vulcan, just so you're aware, and that question was, is the functionality the same if I've got Microsoft 365 and E5 license, or whether I have a Microsoft 365 Business Premium license, for those under maybe over 300 users? And the answer is no, it's the same functionality, which is the same product. Qualification licenses are different, but it is the same product.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think the key part to note on that is that again, if you are using a Microsoft E5, if you are on E5 license, and you're obviously going to have far more security features enabled. So again, as an organization, you'll have more security protocols in place, whereas a business premium or a lower SKU, you might only have a certain element of that protection. So that would be the only thing to bear in mind. There's been another question. Is there any good training material available from Microsoft that we can get access to. Yes, there's .learn is full of great materials, but again, we've got your details here. But what we'll do is reach out to you with some other training material that we've got. Again, kind of the knowledge base within Microsoft Admin Center is quite good. So if you've got access to that, you should be able to pick up on some articles from that as well. But definitely send you some information through after the session.
I think just to add to that, Volks, as well, one of the things we did in our program was there's some base level Copilot training courses or certs that you can go through that are online, that are free to do. So one of the qualification criteria we had with people was doing some of that foundational training and going through it. It certainly gives some of the raw basics and helps get you started. And we kind of felt that if we were going to give licenses out, then someone really should go through a program on how to use it. So we added that in, and we can point to that and show you where that is as well.
Yep. Perfect. Just seeing.
Yep. There were some other questions just as you review. I think a few have come through. I did see one asking, how much does this cost? How much is it? How much does Microsoft 365 Copilot cost? So, look, everyone might have their own different discount levels. Depends on the size of your organization. With Microsoft have said, hey, it's going to be consistent with that $30 per user per month price bracket if you have a Microsoft Enterprise agreement. The specifics will be that price will be £24.65 per user per month. If you have a CSP agreement, that price point is going to be around that. So again, I would encourage you to speak to your licensing specialist account team to understand what your price point would be.
Yeah.
But £25 per user per month.
Yeah. Another question came through. Does this only work with data in 365, not on prem file servers? In the name it states M365 Copilot. It works best when it's within the M365 boundaries. I believe you need to have connectors or in place for it to talk to other data sources, the extendability side. So I think there's continuous development of connectors, whether that will be on-prem file servers, whether that will be Azure Files or actually other kind of third-party solutions that you may be using. And I think there at the moment there is a continuous development of these connectors. So again, something that we could pick up on a follow up with you, but I believe you just need some connectors in place.
I would also encourage you all to perhaps look at there's a Copilot kind of connector marketplace that's growing out and a community of people building different connectors. So I think the more data you can put into some of these models, the better they are. But have a look at some of those connectors, right? There's lots of other things out there. Some ServiceNow ones. There's some you've got some of the things you can do around Dynamics and other things, and we're going to start to see some of them being embedded much more into the tooling that we use on a daily basis. So you'll start to see embedded AI and some of these models go back into specific SaaS tooling you'll have, not just 365, the Azure Open AI kind of technology, which underpins this, will be in more and more software products out there. So these connectors and the library of connectors on there will become more important. You also have sort of Copilot Studio as well, where you can build some of your own models as well, and start integrating them into there. So there's a whole load of other pieces of development around this that are going to effectively make it much easier for you to explore and get answers to all your data that's currently, just not just in 365.
100%. Any other questions?
Excellent stuff. I can see another couple on there, which the first one being, what is the importance of having a corporate M365 template, and what is the effect of not having this? So I don't know if that's something we can cover on the call.
Yeah, I could cover that. I think there's some, you can go online and look at this, and I think it's, we realized that if you don't have, PowerPoint's probably a good example, where marketing teams will have company branding and they'll have company guidelines on fonts or images or layouts of particular slides. And the advantage, if you don't have that set up as a branding template that Copilot can use, it will just go off and create what it thinks is best for you. So you can, there's a good link online for it about enabling PowerPoint and Copilot with company branding. You can freely go and look at it and Google it, and I encourage you to create some templates and create an organizational asset library. That's great, and you can create a PowerPoint kind of template that will say, hey, when you're building a Copilot, refer to this, and it will use the branding and it will use some of the image layouts that are already in that asset library. Importantly, you'll start to see it in the next few months. Microsoft will start developing that a bit more, and you'll be able to put images in there that Copilot can refer to, and then it could change the background of an image, or there's things like that. So I think putting your images and some of your templates into that asset library is going to become more and more important, because what you don't want is people just creating random presentations that perhaps really differ from core company branding guidelines. So it's really useful to have them. It's in PowerPoint at the moment. You can do it in Word, I believe, and that is something we are exploring on doing, but I haven't seen anything kind of published formally on Microsoft yet for Word. But you can imagine there'll be other things around this that start to get built out. There's a load of kind of documentation tooling out there, third-party tooling where you have modules, or Templify's one, for example, and you'll more than likely start to see connectors with those pieces of software, so that existing branding and existing guidelines and document layouts and things like that can all be followed. We have some key documents. You think about customer proposals being one of them. We're really keen to make sure that we've got some templates there that we can use, and it just enables Copilot to understand what things should look like in a much better way. But I would suggest starting with that, looking at that organizational asset library, getting that in place, and maybe starting with key PowerPoint decks, getting that template out is a really good foundation step.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Another question has come through. Can Copilot read documents such as letters, either in Word or PDF? Also, can it link to other non-Microsoft systems, for instance, complaints management system, etc.?
Yeah, it's a really good question.
Yeah.
It can do, and I would also encourage you to look at some of the connectors. There's a whole lot of different variation in here, but it certainly can look at a wide variety of different data sources. Some of them will require you to use Copilot Studio to build out connectors, but there's more and more being added all the time.
Perfect. Any more questions, Ian, coming through?
Yeah, sorry, I am just checking. So the next one coming through, is it? Okay, cool. There's some really cool ones here. So, is there a Power BI integration? That's, I mean, almost certainly, but I don't know have the specific details. So that's something I might need to personally have a little bit of a look into it and come back to you on that one.
Yeah, there is a Power BI Copilot that is there. I believe there is certain functionality already in Power BI that's come along recently, and I think it's a separate product. I believe it's not part of core 365 Copilot, but it is a separate product for it. And the same will go in for things like Sales Copilot that will integrate with Dynamics CRM. Again, it's available for the top enterprise tier users of Dynamics, but it is a kind of separate product, Sales Copilot. And you'll see more and more kind of individual Copilots, if you will, start to come out over the following months. You've got ones for Security Copilot is one of them, for example, where you can use it to analyze security threats. And you'll see more and more of these Copilot products come out. There is some really good videos where you can look at the power of Power BI Copilot, and it is really interesting about how you can explore data. I'm quite visual, so I like the promise it holds, and from an ex-BI background, I think it could be really powerful. Again, of course, with all BI tools, make sure your data is in the right shape and it has the right information in it, and it can be accurate on, because with asking, you can ask it questions, but effectively it might give you you need to make sure you're asking it the right question, particularly with data. And I think it's a really good, powerful thing to query and build dashboards. You also have insights, right? Copilot here for Excel is a good way of kind of starting now in the moment with Copilot 365. The fact that you can ask Excel, what are the insights around this data, are quite good. But I do appreciate building things and scaling it out with Power BI is a different conversation, and there's a separate product for that.
Yeah, I can help look into it. There's another question, which is there a nice question. So is there a recommended business size to use Copilot, e.g. 100 users plus? Is there a benefit for smaller 50-user organizations to adopt? I mean, the quick answer is yes, absolutely. I think it's quite interesting that the fact that Microsoft obviously launched it with those 300 users, just to make sure that those organizations were making an investment, would certainly put the correct effort into properly testing and developing this. And as the points that Will and Vulcan have also made, absolutely every organization can get benefit from this, but it all comes down to kind of understanding what that persona, what those use cases are, learning how to use the product, going on that journey. But I mean, that's right, Vulcan, isn't it? That's every year every organization is going to get benefit from this.
100%. And again, it's all down to the use cases and how much you want to do from a productivity, creativity perspective. You can, if you are doing tasks which are repetitive, and you can actually kind of save time by using Copilot, whether you are a 5-user organization or a 500-user organization, you're going to see the benefits of the tooling.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have? Oh, sorry, it was. Okay. Do you have a template or guidance for AI policy? Yep. Again, that's something which we can kind of get back to you around, but absolutely as part of the assessment that can be delivered.
Yeah, I think that's going to be key. Responsible AI is going to be key as we start utilizing the technology, the Gen AI technologies. It's going to be paramount that organizations do have a responsible AI policy in place, and it's something that everyone's looking at. And again, we can definitely work with you on that to help kind of either with a template or guidance on how to create that internal policy.
Excellent stuff. Going up and down, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's all of the questions.
I believe that is.
Is it for output rather than input? That explains it better, thanks. Maybe we can kind of, yeah.
On that note, I would like to thank everybody for their time today, and hopefully the session has been useful. Again, the slides will be available, and I think the team will load them up onto our social platforms as well. Again, please feel free to reach out to Ian, myself, Will, your account managers, if there's any other questions you have. And again, the readiness assessments, they're complimentary. It's part of the value add service that we provide. Please talk to your account managers to get them booked in. On that note, thank you very much, everyone.